Hey everybody, Coach Roseanne here. I'm very excited today because we are going to be talking about three specific hacks that I want you to include if you are an emotional eater. For those that may not know me, my name is Roseanne Kamau. I'm a nutrition, a fitness, a wellness, and a speaker and a life coach. And I help busy women lose weight without dieting so that they can create a healthy and a sustainable lifestyle. Now, one of the things that I keep talking about is how do you create this healthy and sustainable lifestyle? And this is where emotional eating comes to play. Because for a lot of the clients that I work with, and for a lot of women out there, they struggle with emotional eating. And I've always said if you do not address the reasons why you are eating emotionally, it doesn't matter how much nutrition practices you're going to learn or you're going to be told or I'm going to tell you to do. If you do not deal with that emotional eating aspect of it, the things that are running underneath the surface, then it's just going to be a futile attempt. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be giving you my top 3 hacks, and they are very specific to mindset and how to view this and to think about it. What are the things you would need to do to help you stop emotional eating? Now, this is what I do know. As a busy woman, you're probably raising kids, you're probably busy at work, you're probably juggling a career, you're probably a student, you're probably doing all these many things. And so there's a sense of overwhelm that comes into your lifestyle. And when you're overwhelmed, have you found yourself reaching for food? If you find yourself overwhelmed by life, you're overwhelmed in your family, you're overwhelmed in your relationship, you're stressed out, do you find yourself reaching for food? That's first. Secondly, do you find yourself reaching for food when you are sad, when you are upset, when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you're disappointed, or even when you're happy? Do you find yourself reaching for foods? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, then you are indeed an emotional eater. And so, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to give you 3 of my top hacks that can help you stop emotional eating. Now, the thing that I want you to recognize is this can be a habitual process, or it can be something that has happened habitually over the years. So you need to recognize, has this been a habit that you've perpetuated over the years? Because if it has been a habit, then one of the things that I encourage you to do is, if you do not know whether this is a habit or not, or if you do not know whether this is something that you do on a regular basis, or if maybe you're struggling with your weight and you want to learn how to lose that weight sustainably, but first you want to understand, am I an emotional eater, or am I someone who hops from diet to diet? What are you? Just write to me, or at the bottom, just put the word quiz, and I will send you a link to understand your weight loss persona. So, what's the first thing that you want to do? The first thing that you want to do is, I don't want you to label food good or bad. Now, there's something that happens in our brain when we label food good or bad, right or wrong, healthy, not healthy. If you're an emotional eater, for you, just putting that label out there, it causes your brain to focus on the unhealthy, on the bad, on the wrong foods. And so for you, it's important not to label food good or bad just because of the way your brain works. You will find yourself focusing on the foods that you're telling yourself not to eat. And so eventually, the more you try to run away from those foods, is you actually find yourself eating those foods. And so I strongly encourage you to just label food as food. Don't label it as good or bad. Just let it be food so that you can. And I want you, when you do that, notice how do you show up and how does your brain actually show up. That's number one. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to learn to listen to your body and not to your mind. Now, hear me out here. Because when we get emotionally triggered, what we usually do is we reach for food. Our brain is also running at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Our brain is running at 1,000 miles an hour. And this is where we come up with all these excuses. We come up with all the reasons why we need to eat in that moment. And this is because our brain has formed a habit of just reaching for foods in that moment. And so, what I want you to do is, I want you to notice what's happening in your brain. What are you saying in that moment? Now, I'm going to give you an analogy. I want you to imagine there's an ocean, right? And in this ocean, you know how sometimes when you look at an ocean, or if you're in the ocean, you go to the beach, you always see this wave, right? There's a wave that's going up and down, up and down. Whenever you are emotionally triggered, the wave is up. The wave is just you going up, 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 up. And when you're at the height of that emotion, that's when you're wanting to reach for the cake, you're wanting to reach for the ice cream, you're wanting to reach for the bread, you're wanting to reach for the cookies. when you're up there. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to notice, is your brain suggesting for you to reach for those things? If that's what's happening, that's emotion. That's you're not beginning to act on emotions, because when you eat those foods, what's going to happen is you're then going to reduce in that moment, just for a split second, you're going to mask the emotion that you're feeling, whether it's pain, sadness, disappointment, frustration, whatever it is you're feeling. You're masking it in that short moment, and you're masking it with food, ice cream, cake, cookies, bread, etc. And then what happens is you temporarily feel good just for a short period of time. But then what happens is the wave is going to disappear, but you create a brand new wave of guilt and shame because you didn't deal with the initial issue of frustration, of sadness, of disappointment, and you dealt it with food. And now what kicks in is guilt, resentment, shame, because you didn't deal with the initial issue, and now you're feeling bad because you've overeaten. You probably ate an entire tub of ice cream. And so, what I want you now to do, now notice these are two now things that are happening. And if this is the way you've been dealing with life for years, this has caused you to gain excess weight. And so now what I'm saying is, yes, we can deal with the weight. Yes, I can tell you stop the ice cream. Yes, I can say let's reduce all that. But if you're not dealing with the emotional issues, that's what causes you to gain that excess weight. And this is why it doesn't become sustainable, because you're not dealing with the initial issue. So what I want you to do in this moment is to recognize what's your brain telling you in that moment. And what I want you to do is tip number 3 is to ask yourself, what do I want in this moment? What do I want? Do I want support? Do I want love? Do I want someone to come and help me with the kids? Do I want someone to help me finish this project? Do I need to manage my time better so that I am not in so much pressure in this moment? But ask yourself, in this moment, when the wave is up here, what do you need? Because identifying what you need in that moment is what's now going to help you ride that wave. And I want you to do is a couple of things in that moment. I actually want you to slow down. First, decide you're going to ride the wave and you're not going to reach for food. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to take a deep breath. Deep breaths in that moment. Take deep breaths. Because what this does is it helps slow down your brain. It helps slow down the thoughts that are going on in your brain. So when you take those deep breaths, I want you then to ride that wave 5 to 10 minutes. It's going to disappear. Now, I want you to practice this consistently. Write down what you need in that moment and then ask for what it is that you need, because it's important for you to ask. Just don't write it down and then sit down, girl. You got to go and ask what help you need. Once you do that, eventually what's going to happen eventually is over time, your brain is going to know, okay, we got a new commander in town. We're no longer reaching for ice cream. We're no longer reaching for the cookies. We're no longer reaching for the bread. We're actually doing this hard work. When you find yourself doing this over time, over and over and over, this is now how you begin to reduce your weight. Because instead of eating those excess calories, you're dealing with the issues at hand. Those calories are not building up over time, and that's how you're going to begin to reduce your weight and keep it off sustainably. So if you're an emotional eater, I hope this has been helpful. You can also share with me below, what are your top hacks? What are some of the things that you've done to help you work on your emotional eating? I hope this has been helpful. And as always, remember, you've got one life, you've got one body, and I want you to treasure it.